Welcome to Fuel Disclosure, a Moffitt Services podcast. On this show, you will learn how Moffitt Services is pioneering the fuel delivery industry. From fuels and lubricant product news, to stories from the community, to recent industry trends with subject matter experts. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a moment from Moffitt. To learn even more about the Moffitt Services difference, visit moffittservices.com. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Fuel Disclosure. We're excited to start off 2025 with two very special guests, those being Rusty Moffitt and Roy Moffitt. Today, we actually got Roy in the studio. You're asking me how we did this. Well, because we actually moved the studio into his office. So today, we're actually at headquarters of Moffitt, and I am joined with Roy and Rusty. Hi, guys. How are y'all today?
Good.
Thank you for sitting down, Roy. I know I'm really taking a lot of time out of your day, so I appreciate catching you and asking you some questions. But today we are going to talk about some of the changes that we are going to see here in 2025 for the Moffitt companies in general. So basically, to get us started, Roy, can you start from the beginning a little bit and how you first got into the fuel industry? And tell me about when you first started and how that looked for you.
It was 1927.
When I first started in the fuel business, I was driving a lube truck, delivering lubricants for my mom. I used to rodeo. I was a rodeo guy in my younger days, my teenage years, right? And I got 16, could drive and deliver lubricants. She asked me to deliver lubes. I prefer roping than deliver lubricants, right? It's a good thing I picked up delivering lubricants because that roping didn't work out for me very well. But I delivered lubricants a couple of days a week because she was promising customers. She had customers requesting lubricants, right? We haven't changed.
Yeah.
And they requested something that we didn't carry. We offered it, and I used to drive to different distributors around town and pick up lubricants and deliver them. We didn't have a lube line at the time.
Okay, so something that you saw that your customers needed, and then you just added on to it.
She did, right? Because I can't take credit for that. I was not in the office. I was in the.
And this was your mom,
Mm-hmm.
Joanne Moffitt, and you were 16. You gave Fred the roping credits.
Yeah.
And then you started in the fuel industry. Well, that's a great story. So
It's time for me to move on.
You spent decades in this business. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the fuel industry since you first started? And then can you also talk a little bit about Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling?
Yeah, the changes that I've seen, when I started in the business, it was delivering to farmers in this rural area, right? Mm-hmm. Delivering to farmers, retail locations over time, a little bit of retail, independent mom and pop convenience stores. It wasn't the big major branded stores like it is today. And since that time, right, as you're well aware, we're geographically located all over Texas and the United States. We're selling to large construction companies. Big in the disaster area that Rusty takes care of. It's progressed a lot, right? But one thing stayed consistent the whole time, and that's service. We've went above and beyond to give that customer service.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when you started Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling Solutions, how was that different than Moffitt Services?
Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling, when it started, was in 1996. We only delivered to generators.
Okay.
And to fleet fueling, wet hosing, vehicles on location. People like Borden's Milk, Coca-Cola, they'll go to their locations and fuel their trucks, save downtime for their drivers.
Mm-hmm. So a whole different offer for products that.
And generator fueling as well. Nobody really wanted to do generators because generators typically take, 20, 30 gallons at a time, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a very.
And that one started in 96, right?
96.
And by the time 97 hit, wasn't Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling at the time, one of the largest fuel customers to Moffitt Oil Company?
Yes.
So Moffitt Oil Company had been in business since the 70s,
mm-hmm.
or revamped in the 70s by my grandmother. And then Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling started in 96 to service, the more niche market that Moffitt Oil didn't. And in just 1 year, became the largest fuel customer for Moffitt Oil, the main parent company.
Okay. And Rusty, didn't you used to work for Roy Moffitt?
Years later, but yes.
Years later. So tell me a little bit about that. So you started in this business, Roy, when you were 16 around.
Rusty started in 01.
I started part-time in 2001 for Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling. So he had sold it. He got Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling in 97. or separated it from the sale of Moffitt oil and continued on doing the generators and the more specialized fueling, smaller volume fueling, and ended up selling that business to a fleet fueling entity that was doing roll-ups back then, and then edged out that generator piece, right? So it kind of got us really, really laser focused on generator fueling, backup generator fueling, and which really, what we focused on was selling every single generator customer out there. I wasn't in sales. I was, he kind of similar story to his. I was racing motocross. I was racing motorcycles, 14 years old, going to school, racing motorcycles, and then summertime hit, tropical storm Allison flooded all of downtown Houston, and all hands on deck. I mean, there was even some nights at 14 years old, I'm driving a truck, driving a fuel truck in downtown Houston at 14 with no driver's license, right? So I did that all summer long, and then kind of worked part time here and there, and then came on full time with my dad, and when I was 18 years old.
Okay, so you came on full time when you were 18. So talk about a little bit how what you did then and how you've transitioned now. Now here we are at Moffitt Services, the Moffitt companies. We offer a full round of products, which whether it be fuel, lubricants, site service equipment, we even have our heavy oil division. So what about that transition? So you were at Roy Moffitt, customized fueling solutions. You started working there, and then how did we get to where we are today?
He sold another one. And another one. No, kind of. It kept being that kind of part of the story, but really, I got in the disaster business at 14, all summer long one summer, and then my next time I really kind of got pulled into the business full time. On a full time, everyday work schedule basis, not just doing part time odd and end work. I was it was Hurricane Katrina, 2005. So I was 18, 19 years old, I believe, during Katrina. And we worked over there for a year straight. Plus, I mean, we had guys there in excess of 2 years after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. So I worked there. And then leaving Katrina, I kind of edged out of, the warehouse level, the washing tanks, prepping tanks. And also at the time, a buddy of mine and I, Greg, we started fueling and servicing generators in the field prior to Katrina. So we were servicing and changing oil and servicing generators in the field for GE. GE ended up going on later on and selling that division to a Greco. So that kind of went away with the times there. And then I came back into the office, and we kind of focused more around the operations and the sales around the emergency response at that time. After Katrina, we went back to the day-to-day business. I was back in the warehouse, and I'd held multiple positions, in the warehouse to maintenance to this. And then, by the time, trying to think, by the time 2008 hit, we were selling, and it was the first time we decided to travel. My brother and I traveled to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and started rekindling a lot of the relationships that we had initially sparked up in 2005. We got drug in 2005 by just one big key customer that took it to New Orleans. And then from there, made some introductions, and then made a whole lot more introductions in 2008, and then continued on from there in the emergency response side of the business.
Well, now we're going to get into kind of the transition and what we're here to talk about today, which is a big announcement of Roy retiring, stepping back, Roy. So, after a lifetime in the industry, what led you to the decision to take a step back now? Where did you figure out that, you're kind of ready to?
Age, I'll be 65 this year. That's a big factor, right? That clock's ticking in my ear. Number one. Number two, the business, we've grown this business from 0 to 250 million in the last, 8 years? 8 years. And I feel like
10,
I
really.
think it's going to take a different, I don't feel like it's going to take a different, it's going to require some differences to take it to the next level, right? I just didn't feel like with the travel that I've been trying to accomplish lately, taking my wife on cruises and doing all that, I feel like I don't have the time on my side to help get it to the next level and do some of the things that I want to do before I'm too old to do them.
So, what will retirement look like for you? Do you have any plans?
That's $1 million question. Retirement for me is going to be, number one, I need to take care of my health better, right? Do a better job of my health. And number two, grandkids. I have 13 grandchildren. And number three, some travel with my wife.
Cruises?
Before
I know
that
you
check.
like your cruises.
Yes, I do.
Do you have any cruises booked in 2025?
Yes, I do.
Nice. So, world traveler, stepping back, probably, but you're going to stay on as Moffitt as a trusted advisor. So, tell me a little bit about that. What does that mean to you?
Well, we haven't ironed all that out yet. You know, my phone will be like it has been for the last 50 years, right? My phone's always on. So anything that Moffitt has, or questions, concerns, or customer needs, any customer service issues, I'm available 24/7. And I felt Rusty. Did you call me? He knows how to get a hold of me, right?
Right. So, you'll
We're neighbors.
you're neighbors too, so that helps.
Mhm.
But we'll still see you around in the office, popping in from time to time.
For sure.
I can't imagine you not answering your phone if someone needs you.
Right, for sure. 100%. I will answer my phone.
Well, that's good. It's good that you guys have each other in this. So,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see where Moffitt goes, and I'm looking forward to my next part of this journey, right?
mhm. Stepping back, relaxing.
I've retired before,
hmm
in 2011.
So you
That's the
joined.
retirement that really kind of teed up the start of this business.
2011, I retired and I had a non-compete for 5 years. But I battled some addiction issues. I had a heavy alcohol problem, right? So I got that under control and I set out for 5 years and I joined Rusty and them in 2016. And it's been a good run this time.
Yeah,
We built a good business. We got a lot of good people. Recovery, I feel, has helped me a lot.
absolutely. So tell me a little bit about that. So you've been in the industry since you guys were both 16, and then Rusty, you wanted to start Moffitt Services, and then Roy, you later joined Rusty in 2016. And what does that look like? I mean,
We sold that time he thought he was going to retire in 2011. He sold the business to one of our larger competitors, which, they built an amazing business. Suncoast Resources bought my dad's business, and they built a great big company, right? But it was definitely different. And honestly, and a lot of pieces of what they did is kind of some of the directions that this business is going. We want to continue to grow our footprint, grow our geographical coverage, and not lose that touch that we had. Customer first, customer focused, service above all. We don't want to lose that piece of our business, but we know some things have to change in structure wise and organizational wise to continue to grow at the rate that we've been growing. So that's a lot of focus we're putting now, and we, it was a big learning experience for me, realizing what I envy of that business that bought my dad, and what I think I can do better moving forward. So from 2011 to 2013, 14, I worked with Suncoast Resources. I resigned, or we had a mutual separation at 2013, and I sat out my year no compete. Charlie and I started a heavy haul business, and then in June of 2014 started the fuel business back, and I had a 3-year non compete. My dad had a 5-year, so at year 5 he came and joined us, and we took it from first year. Our first year was 3 trucks, 5 employees, $13.5 million revenue year, to exceeding 250 million, approaching $300 million in revenue with 250-ish employees now.
right. So
And now we're operating out of 5, 6 locations, so, and growing. We have 5 now, but number 6 is popping real soon.
number 6, that's another announcement maybe that we can
It's
talk
Austin,
about.
Texas.
In Austin.
It's Austin, yes.
Well, so Roy, your position now at Moffitt, how does that change? What does that look like for Rusty? Because you sit now as the CEO. And so,
We've already kind of allocated all those duties. Rusty's over ops. Carl's does accounting,
Mhm.
and I'm over the credit and the sales. We have two great sales managers, as you're well aware, and we have a great credit manager. So Rusty needs to just keep his finger on the pulse on those 2 pieces and be available to those people. I think we've got really good people in those positions.
absolutely. Um, Rusty, what does this transition look like mean to you personally? Now that you are going to kind of take over this role as CEO, going to be over Roy's positions that he has now.
Man, we were small. Carl was still finishing up his deal when we first started this business, and my dad was under a no compete. So there wasn't, much assistance, but we were also very small. I had the handful of guys I started this business with, and it was just really small, really manageable, right? So as it grew, about that 2 year mark, Carl came in, got more heavily involved. His previous business that he had sold, his obligations there had kind of ran out. My dad got freed up from his no compete, bought in here. So I started getting help at that point, right?
Right.
And all that growth happened with all that help. And now here we are, and it's going to fall back here. But I think we're ready for it. Moving forward, we've got good management in place. We've got good people in this business, so it shouldn't be as difficult as it would have been, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, with them stepping out, right? And we knew, just the timelines that we all have, right? I'm 38 years old. I got 5 kids. I'm not going anywhere. So I wasn't ready to sell the whole business. There were conversations of selling the whole business, honestly, and I'm just not there, right? It crossed my mind. We started getting phone calls and started getting interest, and we made a pretty big splash pretty quick, right? So we caught the attention of a lot of big players out there that were serious buyers of the business, and we got one approached by a private equity firm that's very differing from a lot of other private equities. For one, they're a publicly traded entity. Though their biggest concerns is monthly, quarterly financial reporting. As long as you've got good trends, we're good. They don't have the same obligations to independent private investors like most of your private equities do. So they're a little bit more lenient there, and they're one of the few that would make a minority investment. So allowing me to still maintain the majority of the business, control the board, control the company and the direction of the company, right, to keep the vision on line with what we started, and bring a lot of needed capital to help us in the growth phase moving forward, right? So we're gonna settle in and iron out some processes and some procedures around here, and get some structures ironed out pretty good, and then with a little assistance from them, we're off to the races. We're gonna grow across the country.
Absolutely. So, can you talk about Moffitt Services? They're bringing on an external partner, which is Main Street Capital. What does this mean, and what does this look like for Moffitt Company's future growth? And how will you be involved in that as a
So,
leader?
so we're going to assist the buyouts of the initial partners first. My dad obviously retiring. Carl's still maintaining a role in the business moving forward, so he'll still be here active in the business for some time to come. Um, but as we get that initial buyout complete and done, and behind us, and kind of maintain status quo for a short period of time here, then we're going to get heavily focused on next strategic locations to grow the business, right? We've got Texas. We've got a great geographical coverage in Texas. Probably not much more work left to do there other than expand what we already have. But to get beyond Texas, and we're in New Mexico now. We're pushing into Oklahoma more. We're pushing into Louisiana more. So we're really wanting to connect the dots down next, moving forward down the Gulf Coast, East Coast, maybe some Midwest locations. So the future is going to be
Exciting.
crossing the country, and then we've got a great partner to help us with that. Whether it be organic or mergers and acquisitions.
Absolutely. What will this transition? How will this transition impact any of our employees or customers?
Well, this investment is not going to affect any of our employees. I mean, they'll see some structural changes, not much. I mean, we're just going to become more of a corporate, more organized type of business, right? From the structure side, our customers should never feel it. The service first is going to be our top priority. Still, we're still going to be that small business. One call handles it all. We're still going to be nimble, and once these businesses start getting larger and larger, you lose a lot of that nimbleness, and that's a piece we don't ever want to lose, right? We want to be quick response. So we're just going to continue that same keep that mission first, and continue to grow the business. So as far as the people here, I mean, there's huge growth opportunities for every employee here.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks for speaking on the transition of Main Street. Appreciate it. So, Roy, after we heard all of this news, what advice would you have for Rusty as he takes on this new position, transitioning into CEO and president of the Moffitt companies?
Just stay present. Be present for the customers, for the employees. Just be here, be available. Be available. That's one thing I've always prided myself in. I've answered my phone for going on almost 50 years, 45, 50 years, right? I've always been available, and that's served me well. That served me well, being available for customers, being available for employees. Any employees have any problem, you're going to have customer problems, right? And just is how we respond to those issues is make Moffitt successful. It's help build this brand.
Absolutely. And I feel like one of the most beautiful things about working at Moffitt, especially since I first started here, is you can tell that this is still a family run business. And so I feel like you brought in your mom's values and your dad's values. And then as you're here, we see Roy Moffitt's values in the company. And so I think that has a lot to do with what Rusty can take away too is, remembering kind of like what would Roy do? How would a Moffitt handle this? And I think that
And,
rings true throughout.
and that's a good point because I've watched Rusty for the last 8 years since 2016, and I mean his responses are. I mean, I couldn't do him any better, or I couldn't do him as good, probably, to be honest. So,
So you taught him well. He's ready.
We
Rusty.
lived. I grew up living on the same property as our office.
out with the
It was
old
very,
and
it
new.
was, it was very, very hard to have work not as a forefront around our house.
Right.
You looked out the kitchen window and it was a truck yard. It's literally, you looked right at that little kitchen window of the trailer house and it was a truck yard. And it went from little to bigger to bigger to bigger to bigger to not 1 square inch left. And somehow we're still fitting the biggest branch we have on that same property.
I know. How does that work? It wants us to
It
stay
needs
there.
a bigger place.
It needs a bigger
That's
place.
yeah,
Hey, maybe that's some of the
that's a future
transition.
that's a future investment coming.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
future investment.
Rusty, what's the biggest lesson you learned from your dad in business?
Honestly, everything we've kind of continued to repeat here. Like you're gonna have problems. It's the way you respond to them. It's the customer service. That's all. Everything else, if you take care of the customer, everything else is gonna fall into place. Yeah, you're gonna have problems. You deal with them as they come. But the one problem you can never fix is having shit service. That sting will bother you. That'll stay with you forever. That's how you lose your business, right? So as long as you take care of the customer, provide good service, do what you say you're gonna do. At the end of the day, every other problem that comes into this office or comes here can be handled as long as you take care of the customer.
Amen.
I would agree. We market that well too.
Mhm.
Service. That's why people choose us, right? That's kind of
And when you do screw up, be there and be an assistant to those customers, because we're not all perfect. There's going to be mistakes out there, but own it, be responsive to it, and handle the customer's concerns and problems promptly.
Absolutely. So that was kind of my next question that I was going to ask you is how would you sum up what Moffitt Services or Moffitt Companies stands for? And you guys could both answer this question.
Just the one-word one.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
one
not
word?
the one word. I'm changing that in 2025. Just in general, like what do you think Moffitt Services or the Moffitt Companies in general stand for? So we've said service and family,
Legacy.
legacy.
To me, starting this business back up was, it kind of was painful. The very first time I was in Huntsville, Alabama, in this day of closing with Suncoast Resources, in a brand new truck I had just wrapped. I had just taken over the fleet department, and I had just wrapped a truck, which was the first truck we did with a flag on it, which now our entire fleet's flags, right? That was kind of a mission I had and a vision I had for our entire fleet to have the patriotic symbolism. And we did our very first truck with a wrap probably 4 weeks before closing. And they pulled that sucker on a runway and had a team out there ripping those stickers off, ripping those door sets off, putting Suncoast stickers on the doors. And to be honest, it hurt. It was humbling. It was definitely a humbling experience sitting there on that airstrip watching that, right? And I did what I had to do. I buckled down. I believe I did a great job for Suncoast, as best a job as I could do. I performed for them at the time I spent there, and just planned my exit, right? So for me, legacy, right? It's just get back to what we've done, right? I mean, my grandmother revamped us in the 1970s. The business goes on way beyond that, right? It was her father-in-law, probably, I believe it's father-in-law, that started this business originally, 30s, 40s, somewhere in that ballpark, right? We timestamped this 1947. That's the closest we can call this picture, right? That's the closest we can age this picture. But if you look, there's 1920s fuel pumps here, right? So we don't really know exactly where the beginning of it is. So somewhere around there. And it kept getting revamped, right? So for me, it was the legacy of, we're very well known in this market for service, for fuel, and I wasn't done yet, so I'm still not done. So we're continue on the yeah. I mean, so for him, whatever, 10 years in, 8 years in, retiring, but I mean, and we've done a lot. And yes, we're taking on a new partner, but this is not an end of a chapter to me, right? It's just getting started, right? This is just phase 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Roy, any final words you would like to say to our team, partners, customers, or vendors?
That's a good question. I'm thankful for all of them. Grateful for all of them. Thanks to all of them for the employees have done an outstanding job, and I hope we've met their expectations as well, right? And just likewise with vendors and customers. Hope we've met everybody's expectations. Any final words? Thank you.
Absolutely. That's powerful. Well, I'm excited. So, this pretty much concludes our episode. So thank you both for your time today. I'm glad we got to bring the podcast studio to the Moffitt headquarters office. This is a new thing that maybe we'll continue to do. I like it.
Hey, I wanted to mention something else regarding the start of this Moffitt oil, this version of Moffitt, not this version, but when my dad died in 1975. My mother had been worked at a bank years prior to that, right? So she had an option. She had 2 young teenage boys. She had a choice we had one fuel truck. It was an old raggedy truck that needed to be replaced. She either had to buy a new truck and replace that one or go back to the bank and work at a bank. Having 2 boys living in Cypress and Houston would have had to done that in Houston back in those days, right? In 1975. She chose to buy a one fuel truck. And that's that. If that wouldn't have happened, right, this all wouldn't have been here. It wouldn't have been possible.
Wow.
She made some good moves,
She did.
very good choices early on.
I didn't realize that.
The legacy. She revamped what she inherited, right? She inherited an old beater truck and barely any customers. It was a second business for my grandfather, which was a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a side job that he inherited from his family.
And
He
died
he
at
passed
40,
away, and
at 49.
whatever. That's just a little side hustle he had, right? It wasn't
Yeah, a little side business.
wasn't the pride and joy of it, right? Grandma revamped everything, took the life insurance money, and went all in.
She ran it from 1975 to 1982. She fell and broke both of her arms Christmas morning in 1982, and I went from the rodeo arena to sitting behind a desk. That's where when I really got thrown into the wolves.
How old were you then?
I was 22.
Wow, you were young.
Had a banknote call due like first week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some pretty big losses early on, and bad credit decisions, but we survived all them.
How many trucks were in the fleet when you started when you were 22?
One.
Just the one?
I'm saying take that back. There was one transport and one bobtail. The bobtail we had another partner with the bobtail business, and the transport belonged to my mother. And there was just those 2 trucks.
Wow.
And I was young, 22 years old, walking in there, right? And trying to dispatch. I was dispatching, billing, taking orders. They didn't take a young kid very serious, right? I had to earn their respect. Mm-hmm. And I just worked hard. I was there.
He got dropped right in the middle of the office, right? Where it's different, a little different, right? He got dropped right in the grease, kind of filling the void of who's this kid? Just came out of roping arena, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I was a motocross kid, right? And then I'd work a little bit and I'd go back to playing, work a little bit. So I had the same hurdles early on, right? But then I got in there full time and worked from the bottom up, right? So it took years, the same kind of deal. Years build up of getting the guys' respect, right? You're just some kid that just, mommy put me here, daddy put me in this business.
Mommy put me here.
Yeah. Oh, your mommy, you're only sitting there because mama's hurt. Or I'm only in here because my dad put me in the business, right? Well, I've held every position in this business, right? From the bottom up, same here, right? From delivering oil to putting tanks together to delivering a tank when needed. But he got dropped in the grease right in the middle of the office. I got to warm up to that, right?
Yeah.
So you've drove a fuel truck too, Roy? Mm-hmm. You've delivered fuel?
Fuel, lubricants.
He's delivered fuel at this business.
Yeah, I've done that lately.
He's delivered fuel in this one.
During disaster times, I help.
Wow. And the legacy really has to do too with our logo, which looks the same. Like you can see in this Moffitt Oil Company hat. But we didn't even change the logo.
That was a tough one when we first started this business because I wanted to go back to the roots because they kind of restricted him from using that logo at the first time he sold after 97. So he had to change from Moffitt Customized Fueling to Roy Moffitt Customized Fueling, sold that, and then eventually it all ran out by the time I got into business. So, that logo and that name was no longer bound down. So we changed it just a little bit, but kept the font the same. We had to go find in my grandmother's house the trifold brochures just to kind of see the original logo, the original font, and recreate that logo to still spin off the original Moffitt Oil logo to use it for what we do today.
So I promise
So
I won't change
Landri
it.
and Landri, every chance she gets, tries to put some dang cursive on a hat or all one size letters or whatever the heck she tried. Just an M on a hat. We have a logo. Okay.
We
Stick
have a
to it.
logo. This is the story.
Yeah.
It's
A
legacy.
little different than that
A
one.
little different than that logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's how she tried to do one of the
Oh,
hats.
and I forgot to. Oh, yes, like that.
Yeah, that logo's all one size. See?
one?
All one size.
Yeah, Grandma. That was Grandma's logo. This is before Grandma.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to continue the legacy, and I forgot to mention our newest foundation, the Moffitt Legacy Foundation, which you both are board members of. So we'll still be able to help the community, maybe help when in times of disaster, when our company goes out to places nationwide, depending on the location of the disaster. So we'll still be seeing Roy. He's maybe he's just not coming in every day, but he's still going to be much a part of the Moffitt brand and the Moffitt story and the Moffitt legacy.
When we happen to make those mistakes, we have those mad customers. I'm just going to send them his number still, right?
Right.
That's always been his expertise around here, right? Problem solver.
Yeah,
I'll take on a lot of that too, right? But,
Mm-hmm.
but they're, that's where we'll be leaning on.
it's been a
him
nice
every week.
run. It's been a real good run. I've enjoyed this business. Probably more than anything I've ever done, to be honest. You got a chance every day. It's interesting. It's been fun business.
Keeps you on your toes. Something new happening every day too.
It's a chance to win every day, right? Every time you make a customer happy, meet a customer's needs, it's a win, And as I said, I come from the rodeo world. I didn't get those wins that often, right? You can get them here. Keep those customers happy.
Well, good thing you chose fuel. Right?
It's worked out. It worked out.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for your time. It's been great. I'm excited for what 2025 has to offer for both the Moffitt companies. You, Roy, as you get to enjoy some time off to travel and hang out with your family and your grandkids, and Rusty, as you take on the new leadership role as president and CEO. I'm excited to continue to be on the team, and I'm ready. Just like you said, we're just getting started. So I'm excited for the future of Moffitt and what new announcements we'll be providing in 2025. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fuel Disclosure, a Moffitt Services podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a moment from Moffitt. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level with a team that delivers industry-leading service and no downtime, visit us at MoffittServices.com.